Well, hello everyone, this is David here. You know, I did a video last week talking about Google Stadia and how much I liked it. And I didn't really talk that much about the controller, so I thought I'd do a quick video here and just sort of show you the controller. And I wanted to compare it to some other controllers that I have and just kind of let you take a look, get your thoughts on it. Now, as I mentioned before, the Google Stadia controller and Chromecast is $100 right now. You can order it. And this is the controller it comes with. So you can see, you know, we have our standard dual stick set up with directional pad. You can kind of hear the click of the buttons there. Now, even with that, you can sort of hear it's sort of a hollow plasticky sound. It's not cheap by any means, but it's definitely not the most premium. You don't have to check to see if these triggers are analog or if they're just digital. You know, in other words, does a partial press give you any action on screen, or do you have to press it the whole way down? I'm not totally sure on that. But you know, it feels just pretty basic. Was that USB-C headphone jack? I'm assuming that's either a mic or some other input there. Like I said, this is not going to be that in depth, but you know, if you know what those are, you can let me know. But definitely have the headphone jack there. So you know, I wanted to compare it with other controllers I have in the house, and funnily enough, most of my controllers that I still have are Nintendo controllers, because I guess with Nintendo, I feel like there's more of like a scarce feeling with those systems. Kind of like I need to hang on to the hardware in case they decide to stop selling it, even though that's not really that true if you look at things. But for whatever reason, Nintendo is good at marketing and making me feel like their things are scarce. So let's see. First one I'll compare this one to would be the Wii U Pro Controller. Now, this controller was pretty awesome, and in fact, it was one of my favorite controllers for a while because I liked the wide sticks. But you can hear even button presses. This is a light controller. The travel on these triggers is very shallow. But I remember this controller having an extremely good battery, and you could even replace the battery, which is, you know, I thought that was pretty cool, something that not a lot of controllers have. But you can sort of see, I have medium-sized hands. My hands are not very large. They're kind of right there in the middle. You can see sort of a size comparison here. Clearly the difference in the layout. But between these two, I think right now, if I had to choose between these two, I'd have to say I prefer the feeling of this controller over this controller. Not to say that that one's bad, but I just prefer this feeling. All right, let me try another one here. Now this is the Nintendo Switch Pro Controller. Now just holding this, there's a lot more weight. So if you have this controller and you know how much it weighs, just know that this has a lot more weight than this controller. Kind of have a dual textured feel there. Shallow buttons. But just the action on these buttons feels a lot more premium. There's some resistance in the sticks that feels very premium. I don't know if you guys know, but if you pull this stick down and shine a light, let's see if you can see it. You can sort of see it down in there. There's actually some words that says, I think it says like, thanks to all gamer fans or something like that. Yeah, there you go. See those words? Game fans. It's right in there. So Nintendo likes to do cool things like that. Now, between these two controllers, definitely would prefer this one, certainly. All right, then we have our DualShock 4 PlayStation 4 controller here. Of course, we know we have more of an analog trigger here, and this controller just has all sorts of bells and whistles that the Stadia controller doesn't have. I've had this for a while, obviously. Forgive that clock in the background there. Very premium feel. But to be honest with you, between the positioning of these, well, let's see, it's about the same. Yeah, certainly more premium here. And then finally, let's see, we have our Nintendo Switch docked Joy-Con controller here. Yeah, certainly this feels very, yeah, this feels very cheap compared. Now the Joy-Cons themselves are not cheap, but you know, you've kind of made a little Frankenstein controller here. This feels cheaper compared to the others. So, you know, if I had to rank them, yeah, if I had to rank them, I think I would rank this one first. Let's see, what next? This one second. This one third. This one fourth. And of course, this one fifth. So, you know, again, this is a $50 controller. If you think about, I mean, you know, for $100, you're getting both pieces of equipment. So if you just assume this is half the cost here, it's functional, it works well. But the quality definitely feels very cheap compared to some of these other controllers. You know, these might be sort of interchangeable. I might could move that up to there. It might could be a third place, but certainly this is the first place. And interestingly enough, before I decided to do this video, I had my wife and son rank controllers, and both my wife and son felt that this was the best controller. They felt that this was the second best controller. This one, let's see, I think my wife had it like this, and I think my son had it like this. So, you know, it's subjective. Clearly everybody felt that this controller was the best controller, but you know, this is somewhere in the middle. It's not terrible, so I wouldn't feel any reservations about getting it and using it. I've enjoyed it. The battery life has been all right. You know, I charge it after every session, so I'm not sure exactly how many hours it would take to drain, but I only play, you know, 4 or 5 hours at a time if I'm really getting into it. But definitely still recommend Stadia, and I think that the hardware you get with it is worthwhile. Okay, so one other thing I wanted to do for you guys is to show you the latency on the controllers compared to the system. Yeah, so as you can see, this is PlayStation 4 with the DualShock 4. I'll do a slow-mo of this. Okay, next we have our Nintendo Switch with the Switch Pro Controller. Okay, then finally we have Google Stadia. One other thing I forgot to mention is that this controller does have vibration, but it's very basic. You know, you don't get that HD rumble like they do in the Nintendo controllers, and none of that new haptic feedback like you get from the the new PlayStation 5 controller. So just a basic rumble. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Have a good night.